Finding the
Voices, talk show by Monica Iguodam. And
Huge fan of Finding the Voice.
You're doing a great job for Manipur.
Manipurbu prithivida masatakpa
good positive voices and make those voices more visible.
Wanted our voice to reach in all the corners of the world.
Interesting people.
Been finding
voices on
people from our own place.
Share positive stories and inspiring stories and bring out the good stories of Manipur.
Finding the Voices.
So in your book, as you have indicated and we have seen, we saw you exploring about Sharmila, her life, her goals and everything. But with the recent turn, after she broke her fast, just wanted to get a sense about your view, opinion of what has happened.
As we were talking earlier, there is a suddenness to the announcement. There was a suddenness to the announcement, to the fact, to the act of her breaking the fast, to the day, to the time. Many people who wrote to me that time asked me, why now? She could have waited till November. It would have been 16 years. Or it could have been full 16 years in November. And, I think my answer to many of those was that if you think Sharmila looks at anniversaries or is looking to commemorate a 16-year anniversary of her fasting, then there is something drastically wrong in what we have understood of this struggle and what we know of her. The fact is that anyone who may have heard Sharmila over the last, I would say at least 4 years, if not more, or at least 3 years, if not more, would realize that this was coming. There were clear signs of it.
So people who interacted with her closely could feel and knew, okay.
I think even if they didn't know that she was going to break the fast, I think they realized how unhappy she was with things to come, things that were happening, how closed she feel, how boxed she feel,
kind of trapped, like in a way.
She felt. And how she felt that there was no way out, that no one was giving a way out or even talking about a way out. And that to me was surprising, that in these 16 years, and you go back to the state and you look at all the announcements or all the things that people have said, and I think barely there will be 3 or 4 quotes where you will see someone saying, we request you to break the strike, break the hunger strike. Isn't it odd?
I think there is. I think there has been people who have said that, but I think it's not covered or it hasn't come in the media. I would like to believe that, because now that people are sharing more, people are coming out and saying that, oh yeah, we have told her, to break the fast this many years ago and things like that. Maybe those parts are not covered.
It is true. It is true. But so was the part when she undertook the fast that wasn't covered. I don't think for people to request Sharmila to break her fast needs media coverage. I don't think.
Right.
It may get media coverage or it may not get media coverage, and I take your point, it may not got media coverage. But I think to coax or to work towards an aim that Sharmila should break her fast does not require media coverage. It requires standing by her, it requires pushing her, it requires encouraging her, it requires giving her a way out, it requires engaging, it requires mobilizing, it requires many other things. No.
So let's talk a little bit about, I think the media did a lot of coverage on Manipur shunning Sharmila's decision That was the headline covered by many.
That Sharmila was shunned by people.
By Manipur.
Yeah.
Which is why actually I had to come up with a small series of interviews with people who differ in opinion and who support her and accept her decision as a human being. So what do you have to say about that whole?
You know, this is the pitfall of a news media monster. This is what happens when people come to a particular area to cover a story and already have a ticket booked to go back. This is what happens, and a friend of mine often uses this word, and I think it symbolizes what's wrong with our entire media coverage. He calls it the clean bedsheet journalism. Essentially, it means that you want to go as far in a story so that you can return at night to a clean bedsheet in a clean hotel. So you want to go only for 2 hours, because then you have to make that return journey and sleep in a clean bedsheet in a good hotel and warm bath. Journalism can't be practiced with clean bedsheets. So I will say this. I think it was the media's job to say that Sharmila found no home in 2 places that night. But I think it was the media's job to say that this was just one tiny section of Manipur. That there were many people in Manipur who stood by this decision. That there were many people in Manipur, or many, forget people, if you wanted to say many women in Manipur, who supported Sharmila's decision, who wanted her to stand her ground, who have stood by her choices. They may have liked her choice or not liked her choice.
It is, I think the question more was like on her as a human being to have the ability to decide, and people to be able to respect that, okay, you know, she cannot just go by what other people say, continue fasting, and that's a good approach for AFSPA and things like that. So I think that's why, in a way, like when this happened, I'm seeing a lot of people, young and old, speaking up for her, which I feel is good for Manipur, because earlier I saw that people were a bit hesitant to speak up, but this was a new thing which I'm seeing that, okay, people are now ready to share their thoughts.
About Sharmila.
Yes, it happened with Sharmila, but I think it's not only now about Sharmila.
Yes.
Right, it has brought out many other, I mean, with Sharmila, like when we are talking about her decision, it is Sharmila's decision, but the question is a decision of a woman.
That's right.
Or a human being, you know. Right. So there are different aspects which has come out because of her being in the media, but I think it is a good time for people in Manipur to reflect and share, you know, what they are thinking about and what their ideas is, which I'm very welcoming that.
That's right. I mean, there was one part to her decision, which was the fact that she was giving up her hunger strike, and then there was another part to her decision, which is that she was joining politics, and then there was a third part to her decision, which is that she wanted to get married.
Right.
And there were people, and people could have different views about all 3 of them. But you're right in saying that this decision has opened many, many layers that are now confronting people.
Right.
Some people are opposing her not necessarily because they oppose the fact that she's given up her fight, but because that she wants to get married. Some people are uncomfortable with the fact that she wants to marry an outsider. The third section of people may be uncomfortable with the man she wants to marry. He may be an outsider, maybe, but they're just uncomfortable with his persona, with how he is, how blunt he is. And I think there may be a section which is just purely uncomfortable by the fact that she's talking of love and marriage and a fiance and having sort of an affair in such clear terms so publicly. It makes people uncomfortable. But, you know, I think Sharmila is, to my mind, calling off the fast and saying these things is as brave as the decision to take the fast. Perhaps more brave, I would say.
Yeah, because like I feel that in our society, earlier it was this big giant elephant and nobody wants to talk about it, right? So now, as you have said, like a lot of things are coming out and people are talking about it, because I I see that to be a change.
Yes.
And Sharmila wants change.
Yes.
Right? Whether I don't know, and I think many people don't know what she has in her mind would be successful or not, but it is, it is moving people for that change.
That's right.
And the first thing is for people to speak out, and I think that's a very good step, at least so far.
True. I think one of the things that people are missing out to is that they're seeing these things in contradiction with each other. These things, and the two are not contradictory. If you look at it closely, a fight against AFSPA and wanting a normalcy to life and having life with love and happiness and with your family and with a loved one are not contradictory to this fight. It is the same fight.
Yes.
The fight against AFSPA is also a fight for normalcy in your life. The fact that you don't see extraordinary situations on your streets, the fact that guns are extraordinary, the fact that you don't see them. That's the normalcy you're looking for in a fight against AFSPA, and you're looking for a similar normalcy in life as well. So the two are not contradictory to each other. And my question to everyone is, to everyone who raises this as an issue, supposing a man was on a hunger strike and decided to get married, would we ever say this?
Right.
It would never come up. It would never come up. Possibly the thing that would come up was he needs it. He now needs the calm of a
It would have been
home, or-
justified very easily, and it would have been accepted very
I
easily.
don't think it would even be a talking
Question,
point.
right? So to our point, I think like Sharmila, the topic itself and what's happening is not only about Sharmila. It reveals a lot about the society, about what every woman goes through.
True.
So I think like it is good that people are starting to have conversation about it.
Yes, and I think it's conversations we should encourage,
Yes.
even if they're not saying the same things. That
Yes,
people want
and
to.
I think there should be difference of opinion. There should be. Not everybody can have the same opinion, but having a platform wherein people can share the difference of opinion in a more, I guess, appropriate manner. Giving the opportunity for each other to speak and listen.
Yes.
Not just suppressing, what you don't necessarily agree. So I think that's what I would like to encourage the people.
It's possibly something that people may not like in Manipur. There are many people from outside Manipur who have, let's say, woken up to Sharmila, woken up to her fast, woken up to her struggle, woken up to whatever has happened in Manipur all these years. And let's say they have been woken up by this strong headline that Manipur has been shunned.
Sharmila has been shunned by Manipur.
Sharmila has been shunned by Manipur. Let's say they have woken up to it, and now they're sort of talking about it. Now they're offering Sharmila home. And yes, we all know Sharmila needs no home. I mean, she has a home in Manipur, and there will be many, many people who would come, to host her, who would support her whenever she wanted to move out of. People have come to terms with it. Let's just say that much. But I think it is silly to tell these people to shut up and to say that
Don't meddle
go
with
live
the
in your
state's
homes.
affair.
Don't think about us, because this is an opportunity to tell people that you did not know something about the state for so long. This is not an opportunity to tell people, please live in Bombay, please sit in your homes, please don't worry about us, this is our problem. This is not an opportunity to do
So
that.
on one hand, like a lot of people in Manipur, including myself, we say that Manipur is not covered enough, right? Maybe that was not a good coverage, but what you're saying is that yes, people have been awakened to this news and they are piquing their interest to know more about
Yes.
Manipur, and it may be a good thing.
I'm just saying that they may be coming out of whatever place of ignorance. They may be coming out, and let's presume they're coming out of a place of ignorance. I think,
But it's an opportunity. That's
It's
what
an
you're saying.
opportunity.
To get to know more about the place, and for the rest of India to, I guess, wake up and know
yes,
about
and I think
Manipur.
it's also a turning point. It's also a turning point for anyone who is interested in the anti-AFSPA campaign. It is a turning point for them. So, to my mind, purely as a journalist, I feel that it is silly. It is silly to actually shut and shun
The people who are expressing their view.
Yes.
Okay, that's a very interesting note. All right, so thank you so much for sharing about your book. And I have read the book, so I would also encourage my listeners to check it out and read the content.
Monica, finding the voices.
Finding the voices.
Finding the voice.
I could see my father. Who came to meet my headmaster because he was unable to pay the fee. I'm sorry.
Because we need such story for people to have faith in the government, in the system, that yes, it's working. And
Let's bring peace in our home state,
People
Manipur.
who have got the job without bribery, they'll do justice to their job, and they will help raise the standard of Manipur.
Me machine kre haido ai adu paraga tingaugi
you have indicated that you have gone back to Manipur, almost every year. So just wanted to hear your experience being in Manipur from the perspective of mingling with the people, the food, and the places.
Yeah, I love going back. There's no denying that. I love going back because I have a great set of friends. I visit some people every time I go. Purely, I don't know why. I like being with them. I like listening to them. I think they like listening to how I see the place sometimes. It's very different from when I first went to Manipur in 2006 to now.
Okay, so 10 years.
Yes, it is very different because it was, and these are changes that I have seen, and these are changes many people who go to Manipur for the first time say to me. So they land at the airport, then they go to a hotel, and they say, "What's wrong? Why have you written this book?
You don't see
There's nothing
anything
wrong. What is wrong? I stayed in a hotel, it was so nice, it was so clean, there's a cafe, you can go." So for a tourist who comes and sort of, not for a tourist, I think a lot of people who went in sort of were businessmen and stuff like that. And, I often would sort of meet them at airport or, waiting for a flight out or something. And I was like, what? They said, "No, we didn't see anything." They just say, "Raat ko nahi jana." But yeah, we were fine.
Okay.
So, I think if someone comes for a day, they would
it's
possibly feel, what is wrong? There's nothing wrong. But so all I'm trying to say is that the immediate manifestation of what you see on the streets is very different from 2006 to now. So that could be, given this veil of development, infrastructure, peace, and all of that. I remember in 2006 when I went, I mean, electricity was a nightmare.
Right.
It was a nightmare. I mean, there was just not even enough time to charge anything. Now, obviously, that's not the situation in 2016.
Right. Yeah, this time when I went, I did not have any experience of power outage.
Yes.
Yeah.
But at the same point in time, if you were to move outside Imphal, if you were to
Yeah,
go to
I'm talking definitely of Imphal, but yes, I cannot say the same about other remote places.
Yes, I mean, I spent in a couple of days in Tamenglong at one of the camps, at a village very close to the camp. To get there was a nightmare. There had been no roads, and there had been no roads for the last for the 3 times we went there, and nothing changed.
Nothing has changed.
Nothing
Yes,
changed.
there are a lot of places where nothing has changed.
So, so the thing is that both sides are true. Both sides are true, and both stories are true for Manipur. I've just, as I said, enjoyed going there. I've made great friends. I have attended ceremonies of friends and their kids. I have.
What about food? Did
I
you
have
pick
loved.
up any favorite?
No, but I remember that every time I come back from Manipur, I always get back ginger, and I always get back pineapple, and I always get back chili from there, because everyone I know in Delhi is so used to, and they can't believe that it tastes so different.
Yeah, it is so different, especially the ginger. I have to say, like, I haven't tasted any ginger.
It tastes so different.
So different than any other places.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've loved the food. I've eaten in people's homes. Yes, I've eaten a lot in hotels as well, which is nothing. But I have enjoyed myself. Not all tastes have been palatable to me, but I have never shied away from trying everything.
I bet you have seen more places in Manipur than me.
No, and the thing is that I have had a chance to eat sort of food that's cooked in a traditional way in a Maiti household, and yet food that's cooked in a Naga household. That is so different. It is so different. It is so different in the ingredients that are used, the vegetables that are in prominence, in the spice quotient. But I have enjoyed both sides so much.
That's very interesting. So, what about like some of your challenges which you have faced, moving in and around Manipur?
I think initially the challenge was purely of the fact that no one really saw a journalist moving with a camera. Initially, I was going a lot with the camera, so the convoys would stop us all the time. And I think when they saw me, there was no problem. But when they saw anyone from Manipur who had accompanied me in the car, it was a problem. I've had many instances where people who have accompanied me and the driver have been told to sort of lie on the bonnet with their have been made to lie on the bonnet and their hands behind and checked, and no amount of my shouting and my aggression stopped that. I mean,
so that shows that, like, with you as a journalist traveling with people, if they have that kind of treatment, imagine the common person who is just traveling alone.
Yes, and I think it also marked out for me so starkly.
Yeah.
And yes, I mean, maybe the fact that I was a woman stopped them. That was the first thing on their mind. But also the fact that I was a woman who looked a particular way. I think that was also a very important part of why I was told, you just stand here.
Right.
Let us sort this out. So that was a really big challenge initially. I think initially the problem in terms of approaching people and getting out their stories, that was never a problem.
You got connected with the local people, and you could.
Yes, I think there was this great urge for them to tell their stories. No one was asking enough.
Yes,
no one wanted to know
I
enough.
agree absolutely. Like, there are a lot of people, like in my small show, where I meet, and like, sometimes my 30 minutes of recording would go hours because there are so many unspoken things. And I'm like, okay, I have to give an opportunity for them to express. So yes, I absolutely agree that a lot of untold stories are there and nobody is asking.
True. So I think that was never an issue. Language was a barrier in some parts. But I had great friends who traveled with me a lot of times and who would explain things to me constantly. And the thing is that if you kept going back and you kept a connection, you got to know a lot more. In other areas, I think access to camps was a matter of trust, and trust didn't come in one meeting. It had to sort of be nurtured.
It's a lot of patience and a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, I think that was a big part. And I think the fourth part was that I think after a couple of years, a lot of people used to get to know where I went. So I could realize that I was being not tracked but kept an eye on. And I think
is that from the Indian government?
I think that was from both sides.
I see.
So if I went to meet,
so you had the question of insecurity.
I don't think insecurity, but I think they wanted to know which side I was on. I think
but you're just a journalist.
I'm a journalist.
You're trying to bring out the story, but what I'm hearing is like you're being tracked from both the.
I think I was tracked from both sides.
From both
the sides, from both the state and from, let's say, the insurgent groups who were who I was accessing or talking to, etc. So I had to. I mean, I had to be careful. I had to be pragmatic, and I couldn't be foolish about it. But I had great. I had great mentorship, and I had great support structure when I was doing some of these things. So.
Yeah, great. No, I look forward for more stories, and I thank you for all your hard work and courage to go to all these places to bring out the story. You know, it's easy for somebody to sit in an AC room like this and read and comment and things like that, but for somebody to actually go and dive and meet several people, and like you said, some of the stories go back and forth and it takes months and months of following it up. So we really, I appreciate your work, the work of every journalist who has gone to Manipur and covered the stories which people haven't been able to hear.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for speaking to me and sort of thinking about these things again and again.
Yeah, so I don't know how much you know about Finding the Voices, but of what you know, I just wanted you to share a little bit about what you think, your feedback, suggestion about Finding the Voices.
I, of course, encountered it oddly here in the US. But I had a chance to look back at the many voices that you've been speaking to, and I think there's great merit in allowing people to tell their stories. When people tell their stories, they think about what they've been. They think about what happened to them, but they also think about how life has changed for them. They also think about their future. I think for Manipur, it's important to bring in not one voice, to bring in a million voices. I mean, we've heard that Chimamanda quote about the perils of one story. There is no one story in Manipur. This is not the definitive book of Manipur. It can't be. There are many, many books to be written. So in similar ways, I think yours is a great platform. It allows people to say how they feel, and I think sometimes people just need to say how they feel, and that's it, and that can be enough sometimes. Tragically, mainstream media's attention has been so dismal and so patchy.
Which is why, I mean, I'm not in broadcasting, but it was more a need to bring up the voices which are not covered, that Finding the Voices was born. Like you see so many talk show in mainland India channel, but you would never see a talk show, forget about Manipur, of Northeast, right? And I would definitely want to change that landscape in the media broadcasting world of India and also in the whole world.
So good. All power to you.
So thank you so much.
Please tune in at Finding the Voices.